It should go without saying that setting goals and achieving things are important in order to have a fulfilling and meaningful life. In this video, I had the pleasure to sit down and speak with Dr. Bob Goldman. His list of accomplishments include, but are not limited to, holding 2 physician and surgeon medical degrees and 2 medical doctorates, having a 6th-degree black belt in Shotokan Karate and a 7th-degree black belt in Tang Soo Do. He holds various Guinness World Strength records. He's also a best-selling author. The list goes on, but I think you guys get the point. To say that he's a highly accomplished individual is a bit of an understatement. But what can we learn from a man who's accomplished so much? Let's find out. By the way, to find out even more information on Dr. Bob, make sure to check out his website, drbobgoldman.com, linked in the description below. All right, what I wanted to ask you, Dr. Bob, since you've basically achieved more in your life than I'd say, 10 people, maybe a dozen, maybe even 100. How do you find the time? Like, you just have supreme time management skills, you sleep 4 hours a day, like there's got to be something related to time. We all have 24 hours in a day. You're obviously utilizing it a lot more effectively than pretty much everybody else.
Well, you got 24 hours in a day, okay, and there were times where I would be working 7 days a week, going on 2 to 4 hours of sleep a night, so I would overwork my competition. I would beat them through sheer force of will. It's all an effort of trying to achieve. Not to hurt others in that process, but it's a self-discipline. So if you take those hours that you would spend sleeping, watching TV, hanging out, doing this or that. I mean, I used to not hang out with my buddies when I was growing up because I had to get ready for a world championship or competitions where I was writing books. I published over 50 books. So even when I was in med school, I think I was the poorest kid in my medical school class. Literally, I had a $10 a week food budget, sleeping on the floor with 6 roommates. I didn't even have a bed the first 6 months because I couldn't afford one. I used to have to get up 4 a.m. to draw blood, doing phlebotomy before I went to school to make some extra money. Then I was teaching martial arts in the evening and working in the Chicago Health Club. I had like 3 or 4 different jobs while I was going to school. So you just allocate the time for what you need to do to achieve the goal. It's not easy. It's very tough, and people sometimes they give up, or if they fail, they give up. You can't let failure or the weakness of your spirit to stop you from achieving that goal. And as long as you're not hurting others in the process, then fine. So you only get 2 hours of sleep. No big deal.
And you can function off of that. See, that's the thing. It's got to be a balance. Obviously, you can function, and you have, and achieve by not sleeping. Did you take naps during the day?
No, I'm very fortunate in my genetics. I don't know how I ended up with these genetics, but I can go without sleep. With very little sleep. I don't get hypoglycemia, so I don't have to eat all day. My last meal was like yesterday lunch. I'm fine. I hardly ever eat breakfast. I'm not giving this as health advice. I'm just saying.
Yeah, this worked for you.
Saying,
don't
in terms
do this.
I've only had the flu once in my life. Unfortunately, genetically, and I've been tested out. And even the genetic tests show that I've got a very odd metabolism. That's why I was able to do a lot of the world records because I don't build up the lactic acid.
I was going to say that because
it
even if you put your mind to doing 13,500 sit-ups.
So the record at that time was 10,000, so I just kept going till I hit an even number. I could have kept going. I could have been 14,000 or probably 15,000. But I felt that I had beat the previous record by 3,500 sit-ups, so I figured that was okay.
For 12 consecutive hours, even if you put that in your mind, the body is not going to be able to do it. So you're just a genetic freak.
With the handstand push-up record, it's a little bit different. When you're doing handstand push-ups, you can only stay inverted for a certain amount of time because the blood is rushing to your head and you get really dizzy, and it's very difficult. Also, there's a lot of stress and strain, and when you hit the ground, you have to perfectly lock in because you can only be inverted for a certain period of time. After a few minutes, you're going to start to get woozy. So it's not even a strength matter at that point, it's a stability matter. You can't stay inverted for that long because you're just going to pass out. And generally that's what happens at the end. You literally almost pass out.
It's a drive part, but the genetics has really been very helpful as well. One grandmother lived to 105, the other one 95. My folks are still alive, thank goodness. My dad's 91, going to be 92 this year. My mom's 89. They're spunky as hell, 100% with it. You know, functional, out and about. In fact, prior to like just a few years ago, pre-COVID, I fly them all over the world. They've been to Bali, Indonesia, Singapore, Malaysia. I bring them to the World Championships all over the world. They didn't have a passport till they were 60 years old. They'd never been in a first-class seat before till they were in their 60s. Till I flew them to the World Bodybuilding Championship in Malaysia. That's cool. So they, you know, they've been around the world. So part of it is genetics.
Definitely. Let me ask you this. Since we are at a martial arts festival, when did you first start training in the martial arts?
Well, I started getting beat up pretty young.
So, the classic bully story happened to you?
Well, I mean, I grew up in a real rough ghetto in the projects, you know, in New York. So it was very, very tough neighborhood. So I'd say there was a lot of fighting before the martial arts came in. A little funny story. I'm like in, I think, second grade. I'm in the hallway and there are 5 guys coming at me and they're gonna beat me up, and as they're lunging at me, I bend down and by accident, pure accident, I end up hooking one of the guy's arms. He goes flying over me. He goes, "You know karate?" I go, "Yeah." I didn't know anything. I didn't know nothing.
That's right.
But then I guess I started diligently when I was like 12 or 13, and then I used to take the train into Brooklyn and trained in Chinatown, used to fight in the tournaments. We used to have in the back alleys, like the pre-UFC stuff they used to do in the back alleys in New York. I was the only white kid there. It was kind of funny. It was mostly black, Puerto Rican, Chinese. But I guess I started in earnest about age 14. And then I was I got my 6th Dan in Malaysia in 1986. And then I was sort of out of it. I had finished medical school. I was doing my fellowship training. So I was sort of separated from the home martial arts world for several decades, and I do the International Sports Hall of Fame, and Chuck Zito and Alan Goldberg happened to see the movie that I put together for Arnold Schwarzenegger, where I was setting world records, and then they came to the International Sports Hall of Fame inductions. They came, "Oh, you got to come to our mega martial arts event." I hadn't been to an event really ever because they didn't exist back in the 70s and 80s. And I go there, I'm seeing guys I used to fight, guys I used to be instructors, and that was 11, 12 years ago. And so I've been at every one of these events. They're tremendous. It's great to see everybody. There's a real camaraderie, a real brotherhood and sisterhood in the martial arts community. And although I've been chief doctor of the bodybuilding sport for 35, 40 years, overseeing all 190 countries, chairman of their medical commission and so on, the martial arts community is really my home. And I try to attend these events, and I try to sponsor things to help to move these things ahead. It's just a great community of people, really, because they're all teachers. They're all sharing their art. You know, where other professions, whether it be in football or basketball, they may not share their tricks of the trade. Where in martial arts, that is the fulcrum of it, to share what you learned, to teach the next generation. And that's why this year at our International Sports Hall of Fame, it's all MMA, combat sports, martial arts, our biggest class we're ever going to hold, because it's our official 10th anniversary. And so it's going to be really off the hook.
Just one more question. Since you have all these strength records, Guinness Book of World Records, obviously you have the martial arts pedigree, how's your training these days? Like, are you lifting weights and doing martial art drills, like, daily, or how's your training?
Mostly I try to avoid injury right now.
Oh, sure.
And so, I'm 66, I'll be 67 next month. And so I'm pretty injury-free. I don't have any muscle pain, no joint pain.
Oh, so you're still fresh.
Yeah, I'm still fresh. Nice. So I don't really spar, I don't really go at it like. I
stopped 10 years ago doing that because I was all banged up. I'm like, this isn't even fun training anymore.
No, it's not fun because injury will really. I like to move weights. I like, I'm not lifting like I used to max out all the machines with real heavy poundage. I don't do that, but I like to lift.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to make an announcement from a good friend of mine.
Thanks, Bob. He kind of cut us off anyway, but perfect timing.
And here's a message from Gary for